Hello, this is Ominous. I've just gotten the last of the components for my nephew's PC, which I will be assembling in this video. This is going to be a Skylake build, and I'll go over the components that we are going to be using. Because he went with a green theme, I found some green zip ties that we'll be using for cable management. The video card that we're going to be using is the EVGA 960 with 4 GB of DDR5 memory. This also does come with a backplate installed. The motherboard we'll be using is an ASRock Z170 Pro 4. We also will be installing a wireless card, which is the TP-Link N900 dual band Wi-Fi card. The hard drive we're using is a Seagate 1TB hybrid hard drive. We'll be putting in 16 GB of Mushkin enhanced Blackline DDR4 memory, which is at 24 MHz. The processor we'll be using is the i5 6600 Skylake, which is running at 3.3 GHz. It is not unlocked, so we will not be overclocking. The case is going to be the X-Cruiser 3 from APEVIA. The power supply we'll be putting in is a RAIDMAX Cobra at 700 watts. We will not be using the stock cooler with this. I'll be putting in a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. It's my first attempt at using a different cooler other than the stock cooler, so we'll see how that goes. The operating system we're using is Windows 10, and the monitor that I ordered with this is the LG 25-inch ultra-wide LED monitor, and we'll see how he likes that, and that'll determine whether or not I try to use any ultra-wides. First thing I like to do is install your power supply first. Now what I'll be doing is getting out the motherboard and setting everything up on it to include the processor, your memory, and the cooler, and then doing a test BIOS booting just to make sure everything boots correctly. And then after that's done, I'll then install the motherboard with everything on it into the case. As you see here, I had some clearance issues with getting the memory installed with the cooler on, so I had to remove the cooler and put the memory in and then put the cooler back on. Not that you saw it, but the BIOS did successfully boot. So now I unhook everything, install the plate for the motherboard on the back of the case. And then I get the elevation nuts installed on the case itself so that I can then install the motherboard. Now comes time to put the motherboard into the case. Because of the screwdriver that I'm using is not magnetic at all, one trick I like to use is if you have a magnet, take your screw or the tip of your screwdriver and rub it back and forth on the magnet to magnetize it, and that way you don't have to worry about your screws falling off. Now comes time to connect all your case hardware and wiring to your motherboard. Make sure you do reference your owner's manual for the case and the motherboard to make sure you connect everything correctly. One thing to remember when you're in this process is that cable routing is going to have to be kept in mind, so make sure you connect everything where you want it ran. So at this point I realize I have an issue where my cooler sticks out way too far and it interferes with the side panel fan. So I end up making some new mounting holes so that I can mount the side mounted fan down lower so that it clears the cooler, and I'm able to close the case. So to make my new holes, because I'm dealing with plexiglass, what I do is I heat a screwdriver tip that's just the right size for the screw hole, and then use it to melt through the cover instead of try cutting. Usually when you try to drill plexiglass, any kind of plexiglass, you'll end up cracking it once the drill finally makes its way through. So right here I take a razor blade and I'm using the razor blade to clean up some of the melted plastic from the plexiglass. So what I'm doing here is I'm just running through the BIOS just to make sure everything's at the right settings. I think the only thing that I needed to change was the megahertz on the memory. I think default was around 2100 and I had to turn it up to 2400. So it's the next morning, and I've got Windows 10 installed along with the drivers for the video card and all the other things that were installed with the machine. The gauges on front, you can see the top one is your volume decibels output. The center one is for your RPMs of the cooling fans, which is controlled by that potentiometer up top there. And then the bottom one is for the hard drive temperature, which used the thermocouple I taped onto the hard drive earlier in the video. It's got a hard drive activity readout LED right there. When you look at the side here, you can see the new holes in the bottom I had to melt in so that I could mount the fan lower to clear the cooler. You can see there's just barely enough room for it there. Let me know what you think in comments below about the video. Like, subscribe, dislike, whatever you will. And thanks for watching.